All right, so I want to talk about specifically the properties and the types of properties that we're looking for. As a young investor, this is probably a useful piece of information to you to give a snapshot on what an investment property looks like. All right, so for me, Rich Lennon, again, there's a lot of ways to invest. I'm a believer in single-family homes. I talk about maybe if I get 50 homes and retire, maybe I'll retire into the commercial business. I'll go buy an apartment building. That might be what I'm doing. But that's not what I'm doing right now. I really believe in the single-family homes, and I want that to be part of my portfolio. So that means no condos. That means no townhouses. Why? Anybody any idea why no townhouses and why condos? Multiple headaches, especially condo fees will take all your profits away, but they're difficult to sell. Right? So you always have to, as the investor, you always have to think about the end buyer. So even though I might rent a property, I might own it for 30 years, eventually I'm going to sell that property. And I want the easiest property I can to sell to maximize my profit. Condos in America right now, everybody took a beating when the bubble. The single family homes have come back, but the condos have not. I don't know if you've done any research on condos, but it's a very difficult investment right now. So I'm a real believer in single family homes. And this was the tough one for me to get at as an investor was the homes that you're looking at are not homes that you necessarily want to live in. And that was something that I took a long time for me to wrap my head around because I always drive through the really nice neighborhood and say, oh, I want to invest in, I want to own that property, and wouldn't that be great to own this property? And I realized after a while that the best properties that are going to earn me money are not necessarily ones that I personally would like to live in. I might not think it's attractive. There's a lot of houses that I look at and I'm like, I do not like this house. The only thing I like about it is the money from it, which as a real estate investor is a pretty positive thing. All right, this one is number 2. I'm looking for properties that do not have a real estate agent. Real estate agents do a lot of hard work. Let them do their job. I have never had a real estate agent, no offense, Roger, bring me a deal. They're all retail guys, and as they should be. That's their business. And so most of them, when they have a house, it's a retail house, and it's not necessarily something that you're going to be interested in. That person wants a retail price for the home. I'm a discount home buyer. I buy homes at a discount. And a lot of times that's not with the real estate agent.
I'm not a realtor that does that.
He's not a realtor that does that, okay?
I like to go out and find wholesale houses for you.
That's great. Great, we'll talk afterwards. I'm always looking for someone to find me a deal. All right, because I'm okay with paying Roger his commission, his 3% or 2%, or if I can really negotiate with him, 1%? No, I'm just kidding.
I have acquired by a house, and I got 1%.
Yeah, all right. He threw it out there, right? We all heard it. All right?
It was the last time.
Yeah, probably.
Especially since it was in Dinwiddie.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right. So, yes, there is. Yes, there is.
He'd only bought 3 houses from me.
3 houses. That's pretty good. 3 houses, repeat customer. I'll be happy to buy 3 houses from you. All right. So, again, but I'm typically, for my bird dog, I'm looking for someone who is not have a real estate agent. That real estate agent takes a fee, takes a commission, and that's money out of my pocket and money out of my margin. So throughout my business, I'm always trying to eliminate the middleman, always trying to eliminate the people between me and the cash. And the real estate agent, while a professional in my industry and I have a lot of respect for, is someone that I try to eliminate. So my home physically looks like it's 3 to 4 bedrooms. It has 1,000 square feet. Not many of them are above 2,400 square feet. When you get into like those 3,800 square feet houses, they're too expensive and the cash flows don't work out. And I like it should be 1.5 and 3 bathrooms. 1 bathroom in a home is difficult to sell and difficult to rent. Not impossible, but difficult. And I'm always looking to make my life easier because it's complicated enough as it is. Now, when I say 3 to 4 bedrooms, it can either have 3 to 4 bedrooms, 1,000 square feet and 1 to 3 bathrooms, or I can make it into that. A great example of that is Richmond is full of capes. The Cape Cod, love the Cape Cod. Love the Cape Cod that's 950 square feet, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and a huge attic that no one's ever done anything with. By the time I walk out of that property, it's a 4 bedroom, 2 bath with 1,500 square feet because I finished the attic, I put 2 bedrooms and I put a bathroom in there, and I bought it at a 2 bedroom price. And I'm going to sell it at a 4 bedroom price. So I'm adding value to that property. So I'm not just getting it at a discount, but I'm adding value. And those are the ones that when you walk into, little ding, ding, ding goes in the back of your head. But I'm not interested in a house less than 1,000 square feet that has 2 bedrooms, and I can't add anything else, right? Because it becomes very difficult to go. I recently bought a house down in Chester that was 2-1, and it was 1,200 square feet. So I rearranged all the walls. Now it's a 3-2. So if there's space and it works, it doesn't have to be when you buy it a 3-4, but you have to go in there, take a look at it, and say, I could change this into a 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. If you're going to be a long-term hold, I would encourage you to get at least 3 bedrooms and at least 1.5 baths. I would think that's a huge point in your rental rate that you'll get for that. All right. A great rule of thumb is I want to be in the worst house in the best neighborhood. And so when you're driving for dollars and you're driving around, this house is typically fairly easy to find. You literally can get in your car, you can get on your bike, you can run, you can walk. I encourage you to walk. I think that's the best way to do it. And you can walk around and go around the neighborhood and say, I like this neighborhood, I want to own, I like the price point. Go around, find the worst house, and that's the one you want to buy. It's the one that you get the most value out of. So you're looking for the worst house in the best neighborhood. What type of neighborhoods? Everybody has a different buying criteria. I've talked about that multiple times. I will be talking today about Rich Lennon's buying criteria. You guys can do your own strategy any way you want. I know a lot of investors that are very successful in buying in what you would call war zones, places that I personally don't want to be. But they buy and they're very successful and they're very comfortable. And that's great. So that tells you 2 things. If you find a deal, you can sell it in any neighborhood. But to sell it to Rich Lennon, and because I'm a long-term buy and hold guy, my 16-year-old daughter that I don't have has to be able to, in my mind, be able to pick up the rent at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm comfortable with her doing that. So if I'm saying, okay, she can go in there and she can do that, nothing's going to happen to her, that's the neighborhood I'll buy in. And that's kind of my mental criteria that I go through. And so that is a great way to buy the most equity in a neighborhood. It's the worst house in the nicest neighborhood. All right? So simple construction. We want simple construction because we don't want it to cost a lot of money to do repairs. We want to be able to do everything the least expensive way we can, so we're working for houses that are easy to build on. An example, brick ranchers. I don't like the way a brick rancher looks. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't like it, right? But we go back to the original conversation of it's not for me. Brick rancher is probably the best house to buy for long-term hold because it's really hard to mess up a brick rancher. In Richmond, they typically were built in the 60s and 70s and 80s. They probably have a decent crawl space on them with the brick rancher, and they're probably 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, 1,300 square feet, and you got to replace the roof, and then you got to watch out with the electrical, the plumbing, and the HVAC, and you're pretty much it. It's a brick on a slab or on a crawl space, and so it's very easy to maintain. It's very easy to make repairs when I need to, and it's an awesome investment property. Cape Cods, I talked about the Cape Cods a little bit. The Cape Cods are awesome because of their attics. You know, some of them attics will work and some of them they won't work. But I like Capes because you can add a lot of value to it. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. So the tri-levels and the split foyers, I got a couple pictures of those. They seem to be awesome houses. They were built in the area that I grew up in, which was, I was an 80s guy, right? So I'll date myself there a little bit. So my teenage years were in the 80s. And so the houses that I remember growing up were all tri-levels and split foyers. But houses that are built in the 80s, because of this, are awesome because the plumbing is going to be done correctly. When you start to go back into the 70s and the 60s, and right now I'm in a house in the 40s, oh my God. So when you're in the 80s, you're going to walk in there, your electrical panel is going to be 200 amps, right? That's going to save you a couple $1,000s. Your plumbing is not going to be any of the PEX that's in there, right? It's going to be a good solid plumbing. A lot of them will be copper. As long as someone doesn't steal it from you, copper is a great long-term way to have your plumbing done. So I like the 80s homes, and they tend to be in the tri-levels and the traditional split foyers. Again, something I grew up in, but wouldn't necessarily want to live in today. I don't think they're beautiful, but again, they're beautiful for my cash flow line. And that's what we're all here to talk about today.